we were on ceremony. So
Well, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Detroit in Black and White. I'm Adolph Mongo. Here we are at McShane's on Michigan and Trumbull. Allan Lengel, co-founder of Deadline Detroit. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Attorney Vanessa Moss. Once again, how you doing?
good morning. I'm doing fine. I'd like for all those that are viewing Detroit in Black and White. We're on the corner of Michigan and Trumbull at McShane's. But if you're watching on YouTube today, we'd like for you to hit that like button, subscribe, and share. We're also live on Facebook. You can catch us on Instagram. And you can also go to our webpage, which is DetroitinBlackandWhite.com, and you can watch all of the episodes. Good morning, everybody.
And good morning to our guest, Wayne County Executive Warren Evans. How you doing?
I'm fine.
And thank you. And thank you for coming down here.
You acted like you thought it was going to be difficult for me.
I'm
not that hard to get along with.
Listen,
we go back a long way.
We go back a long way. Yes, there's no question about it. And thank you very much to come down here. Tell us what's happening in Wayne County.
Boy, we could probably do a 3-hour show on that. But let me just try to. The positive things are. We will be receiving the keys to the new criminal justice complex.
I was going to ask you that question.
Probably within the next 30 days. And what that gives us is a 6-month timeline to move in. So whenever we get the keys, go forward 6 months, and we've got to be in there. Now, I mean, as you know, moving into brand new places is always difficult anyway. But when you're moving a couple thousand inmates, and you're moving kids from a detention facility to another detention facility and getting the people acclimated to the new environment is not easy. So I mean,
it's going to be the jail and the juvenile.
The jail will be in there. The juvenile detention facility will be in there. The new circuit court criminal division will be in there. The prosecutor will be in there, and the sheriff will be in there.
What's so reporters? Where reporters was, is that going to be moving?
To that complex? Yeah. All of the functions that were there will be in the new complex.
Do it has a new name?
We haven't named it yet. Just criminal justice complex, I think.
So Lincoln is gone.
Lincoln is still that. Now that's still juvenile. That's phase 2. When we're also going to have to build a civil complex, and that will involve Lincoln and friend of the court and a number of those other functions. I mean, the real idea here is they're all old, and as you know, jails don't last long because people don't treat them well, and so their shelf life is really not as significant as other buildings. The main thing is we have 3 jails now, none of them are worth the quarter. Get everybody into a new facility. At least we're starting with new technology. We're starting with the ability to only manage 1 facility rather than 3. And with the other parts of the complex, we get out of leases and old buildings that, might take millions of dollars a year to maintain.
Now, the federal government was not housing, or has not been, unless that's changed. They haven't been housing their prisoners in the Wayne County facility because they thought it was under par. Is that going to change now? Are they going to?
I don't think it's going to change because it's not in my plan to house the federal prisoners.
Okay.
Bit concerned.
So what I would say is I'm happy to hear that this is part 1 of the plan. I'm an attorney. I practice criminal, family, probate, and juvenile.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time in the last 6 years over in Lincoln Hall of Justice. So, I'm sure you're familiar with how that building looks and what's going on over there. So, and the people over there, I'm sure if they're watching the show, they're happy to hear that the plan is to do a second phase of this to move that Lincoln Hall of Justice, as well as those of us that are over in family court, civil court,
Our
move
physical,
it to a new
our physical
facility.
plants have been in terrible shape. We've had leases in a number of buildings that are just a drain on the budget. We have leases in the Penobscot building, leases in other buildings for different portions of a
Right.
function that ought to be under one roof. And so that's where we're trying to get. Yeah, when you talk about the Lincoln Hall of Justice, I was in the prosecutor's office for 2 years, and I ran juvenile division
Right.
there in that building. So I'm absolutely aware of the fact that it probably should have been condemned then.
Right.
And so it's one of those places that we got to get, the building. But remember, when I took this job 10 years ago, everybody in town thought we were going into bankruptcy. Yeah, this is my 10th year.
Wow.
Everybody thought we were going into bankruptcy. Nobody gave us a chance to survive. And when I talk to the mayor, I laugh now. Detroit's done wonderful things. Yeah, coming out of bankruptcy
Right.
is a little different than paying your debts without going into bankruptcy and getting to the point we are now. We've had 10 balanced budgets. We've had surpluses each of the 10 years. And that's something to talk about. We probably got $300 million in our rainy day fund. I mean,
Yeah,
we've
got
made
some cash.
Right.
we've made significant differences. So I can fund these buildings. I mean, I don't want to fund us into the next recession
Right.
or problem, but Rome wasn't built in a day. And I think getting this criminal justice complex one done, getting us in there, then I'm full speed ahead to build another civil complex that will bring everything else that we have.
What about that beautiful building on Randolph?
the old Wayne County building?
Yes. What's gonna happen with that?
I don't, it's been sold. I don't have any.
Oh, so it's gone.
private.
I mean,
It's
it never was
Okay.
owned by the county.
Okay.
There was a consortium that owned it before, and I don't know what they've done after that. But when we got out, we have no financial responsibility there, no ownership, no anything.
What about the old 1300 Bogey? Another beautiful structure.
That belongs. Well, that's already been
Gilbert.
built. Yeah,
Okay.
That's
Gilbert owns that.
that. Very
Okay.
high. Yeah.
And let me ask you the complex. Is the county going to save money by consolidating all these facilities?
Absolutely. I mean,
Makes sense.
we are going to save money there that will help for the operating cost of the complex. And at least it's new. I mean, you always have to do maintenance and you have things coming forward. But the brand new building with some state-of-the-art technology is better than it was before. Now, I mean, I'm not happy to build jails anyway. I mean, I would love those not to be necessary.
Right.
But, and the number of beds that you've built, we built about 2,100 beds, which I think will take care of Wayne County's population as long as we still have an emphasis on putting people back in the community that we can, and not just warehousing folks. I think that's an accurate
Right.
number.
Is it going to be broken down like prisons in security levels, like high
Yeah,
security, low
absolutely.
security?
Absolutely. You have to do that by design.
And it's a
makes
big,
sense to
it's
do.
a big operation. Some of the state prisons like Jackson, they split it up. You're creating one big facility. Is that going to be a
Yeah, I
big
mean,
challenge?
most counties and cities do. I mean, there's a big difference between jails and prisons.
Right.
We're not set up for people to stay for 5 years.
Right.
We're set up for turnover until the case is adjudicated. They'll go to the prison system. They'll go to probation. They'll go wherever they go.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's designed correctly. But you mentioned earlier about are you going to maybe contract with the feds? Well, I only got 2,100 beds. I've got to take care of Wayne County first.
Right.
I tried when we started this process. I went to the city of Detroit and I went to the feds and said, do you guys want to buy into this complex? I mean, 2,100 is all I can build.
Right.
But if Detroit, you want to build 100 beds, so you can get out of your detention contracts with the state and all of that, then come on to the table.
What they say?
Nope.
No, well,
They
they
weren't
didn't say anything, just weren't particularly interested.
Yeah.
But it's interesting in the last 2 weeks, now they're interested.
Huh.
Well, could we maybe use your old Division III jail, the jail in Hamtramck. So I mean, they're all kind of machinations. Everybody's short of everything, but there tends to be less coordination than there should be to try to figure out how to solve problems when you're designing.
So what's going to happen to the old jail?
Torn down.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about that site where they were going to build a new jail, or what's happening?
Well, you know, Dan Gilbert owns that. And initially, in fact, I went to a press conference a few years ago where that's where the no, well, that was the first one.
Right.
Yes. First, it was going to be a soccer stadium. So we did, you know, we were invited to a big press conference and that never materialized. And then it was going to be the Innovation Center, the U of M Innovation Center that now I guess that was going to be there too. And that fell apart. But I mean,
and are you have any problems
It's not
recruiting?
Wayne County.
No,
Not on his purview.
You have any problems recruiting corrections officers, or?
I think it's a national trend. We're having problems attracting corrections and police officers everywhere in the country.
And what do they pay? What does a corrections officer earn?
Well, we were very resentful in Wayne County when we say corrections officers because we're all police officers.
Sheriff deputy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
But
right.
yeah,
My apologies. Yeah.
but in the last 6 months or so, we've raised police officers' salaries about 25%. It's a significant bump. You know, they certainly deserve more than they were getting.
Starting salary would be what?
About almost 40,000.
Go ahead.
So I want to pivot. So when you came in, I started. I'm going to ask you on the air. Are you running for mayor? And the reason I'm asking you this is because I'm out in the street, and that's what people are talking about. Talking about Warren Evans running for mayor. And I have to be honest with you. A few people I talked about, they're very receptive.
Yeah. I haven't made it my mind, you know, and that's not me being coy.
Okay.
That's me saying, do I have the intestinal fortitude left to give it the 1,000% I think it needs? I mean, I think the city has done some amazing things in the last several years, but one that's not amazing to me is I don't see enough people that look like me in key spots in the city. I don't mean jobs. I mean, when I ride past a construction site, I don't see enough skilled tradespeople. It seems to me that Detroit has an underclass population that we just turn a blind eye to. We know they're there, but we're not really putting the resources in place to get them from where they are to where they ought to be. And that's a big job. I mean, job one for me, I mean, managing big budgets. The county has a $2 billion budget. I mean, I think I've shown the financing is not a rocket science for me. I mean, I can do that. What the city, I think, needs is some forward planning in terms of the gross amount of space that the city has and what it's doing with it. Downtown's doing fine. Mm-hmm. Neighborhoods, there's a lot of stuff that can be done. It takes time and energy to do that. It takes a certain passion to do it. The job I have now is not the worst job in the world. I love it. And so for me to leave it, I've really got to feel like I can put together a team and the city will support me enough to make the major changes that I think I keep hearing in my community, the African-American community, all the time.
And do you expect Duggan not to run, or
I expect him not. I expect him not to run.
Run for governor, you think, or I guess that's a rumor.
Yeah, I know that's
that's a rumor that everybody know about.
He hasn't told me that.
We're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back. We're gonna continue the conversation with Wayne County Executive Warren Evans. This is Detroit in Black and White.
Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, you know, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasurer.waynecounty.com and see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasurer.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
Okay.
I mean, it ain't that kind of.
Well,
I mean, it ain't that kind of thing. You know?
Wish we could record this conversation. So, but anyway, we're back with Wayne County Exec Warren Evans. Mr. County Exec, President Biden. Do we have a Michigan problem? A Wayne County problem?
Yeah, I think he's got a problem. Yeah, I mean, I think he's got a Michigan problem. I think, and it's an obvious problem.
What is it?
What is it? Yeah.
People are caught up on him not being attentive enough, him being too old for the office, him not doing enough for the border. You know, takes whatever it is. You know, once the ball starts rolling, and I'm not blaming Biden for all of this either. I'm just saying that's what I'm hearing in the community on a regular basis, and I just don't see the connectivity that can pull him out of the doldrums. I mean, every you know.
You see it. Some people say his strongest hand is Donald Trump. The reason for people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my feeling and feeling of lots of people, you know, that I know, we're just tired of voting for the lesser of the evils. You know, I would certainly vote for Biden. I'm a Democrat, and I certainly don't want Donald Trump. But I don't want that to be the decision tree. I'm going to vote for Joe Biden because I like him better than Trump. What I think people are looking for is a candidate that they can, you know, wrap their arms around and say, here's the next person who can.
How would you rate his job in terms of his job performance?
I actually think he's done a good job in most areas. But it's how you sell it. I mean,
and they're not selling.
Right.
And how you come across visually when people see you and talk. I mean, there's so many dynamics in politics, as you all know. I'm preaching to the choir here,
Right.
but I mean,
Would you let him drive you somewhere?
Yes,
Nope.
I would.
No, you would.
I'll let you
No,
drive
you
me
would.
somewhere.
No, I'm not driving.
You're near the same
You know,
age
Brian,
that he is. I
listen.
don't even know why you say
Listen.
that.
What do you
You
when
know,
people talk about
I'm a big proponent of stop talking about people age. To me, when you get
Got to.
older, when you get older,
Got
you're
to.
seasoned, you're wise.
You can't have an 80-year-old
I'm sorry.
flying a plane.
I'm sorry.
They can't fly a
If
plane.
you listen,
A 70-year-old can't
Listen.
fly a plane.
a 3-year-old can't fly. a
But
plane.
if you're an
An
80-year-old, you can hire somebody to
Absolutely.
fly that plane.
Absolutely.
But if you not got dementia, or see,
there you go.
Listen,
I don't know.
Social media has, you know, these rumors come out and they just take flight. We don't know. You don't know that man's medical history. You don't know that. What you're doing is you're repeating what you read.
well, he got
repeating
people.
what people have said.
Listen, he the president of the United States, the
But
most
you're gonna,
powerful.
you're gonna vote for the guy with dementia that you say has dementia. You're gonna vote
Because
for
I
him.
like my
So why are
grandfather.
you talking?
I like my grandfather.
So why
I'll
are you
take care of
talking
it.
about him?
Listen, that's a portion
This
that's
is
out
what
there.
we do every week.
Listen, but anyway, so how can you know in 2016 Hillary just crashed and burned here in Michigan? How can we prevent that right now? Because people saying, well, when he didn't come to Detroit, he went to Harper Woods or whatever. And you know, people see little things like that. When Obama was going to these little places, he went to all these small towns and stuff. Come to Michigan, he go to Holland, Michigan, or go to Birmingham. But they always avoid the city.
Well, I mean, you know, now you can't discount the fact that there's an Arab American problem with respect to
Right.
Biden
Yeah,
too. And
I understand, but there's a black problem too.
I'm not suggesting he can't do better. I'm suggesting that as president, I think if you look objectively at the things he's done a good job. I don't think he sells it well enough. And I don't think the Democratic Party in Michigan is inclusive enough to bring all of the people together who could help. I don't have any relationship with the Michigan Democratic Party. I don't.
And you're a Democrat and you don't have a relationship. So what do you think that they could do better in terms of being inclusive? Because I agree with Adolph a little bit that you have not seen his presence here in the city of Detroit, but then you've had the deputy mayor talk about how the city of Detroit has benefited from Washington and benefited from the mayor having a relationship with the president, bringing money into the city.
I think it
so
has.
I think
Absolutely.
that you're absolutely correct that what are you doing? You're not selling it. And why?
Wayne County includes Detroit, but Detroit's only 1/3 of Wayne County.
Right.
2/3 of it is outside. I think he's done a great job bringing buses to Detroit, bringing funds to Detroit. I think the mayor's done a great job of spending portions of it on things that are important. But there's a whole lot outside of the city of Detroit. And as I said, I have no relationship with the party. I'll have the same relationship we all have, which is, a month before the election.
Right.
Then there's a big panic. Come help me get out the vote. I mean, I got that relationship.
Have they asked you?
No, it's too early.
It's too early, but you expect them to come to you and ask, "Say, help us out."
And absolutely, and my point is, it wouldn't be so strained to come ask for help later if you included me, the county, in some way with the structure of the party in the first place. You decide the party decide there's certain candidates you're going to support before primary. Did you ask for anybody else's input about that before you just decided to support the candidate? Of course, then I'll go off on a tangent and, not a tangent, but I will go off and support somebody else. And then, of course, I'm persona non grata, I guess, because I didn't follow the party line. Nobody asked me to be a part of the party line. Nobody asked for input from me with respect to the party line. So, I think there's some internal
Do you think
problems.
it's an assumption that because you're Black and because you said you're a Democrat, we have them anyway, so it doesn't matter. We don't have to have that conversation. Do you think that is part of what's going on?
I ain't even gonna answer that because when you ask me. But the real reality there is, I think it's more Detroit is the focus, and Detroit has its own leadership, and they don't really understand that everybody in the city of Detroit is also in Wayne County.
Right.
And the last 5 elections I've looked at, I did pretty well in Detroit. So there are people in Detroit who come to me to ask about things that I know absolutely nothing about. So I can't be a spokesperson for it. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing or a good thing. It just means there's a tendency, and I think it precedes my administration too. So I think McConnell probably had the same problem, and I've heard McNamara had the same problem. Just the ability to include Wayne County in that equation that all seems to always be Detroit. It's just something that
we have, it seems like we have the loudest voices. Now, looking at the congressional races, you support Adam Hollier, right?
I do. I did the last time.
Okay. Why can't we come to a consensus, have a candidate that if they want to take back that seat, and I've been an advocate, a loud voice on. We can't have 20 people in one race, because then you're not going to be satisfied with the outcome.
So I guess the short answer is we don't have a Coleman Young to pull them all together. That's one answer. The other is, they're just competing forces. That's what I tried to do in the last election. I pulled a consensus group together and invited everybody. There was nobody left out of it. Let's all get together and see if we can't talk our way into a consensus candidate. And at that point, I'm not supporting anybody. I'm supporting the process. The process is let's find a consensus candidate. As the kind of the leader of the process, I stayed back and away from it. So it didn't look like I was trying to taint it with whoever I wanted. I mean, it didn't have to be Adam, but it turned out to be, after interviews and that, it turned out to be Adam and I was comfortable with the decision. Why other people didn't get out of the race, why they couldn't see that they were going to dilute the vote so much that we wouldn't get at them. I mean, you have to talk to them about that.
Yeah.
I mean, but that was the whole purpose of me pulling the group together in the first place. Let's see if we can come to a consensus. If we can't, at least we tried.
Right.
You know, and folks came and folks voted, and I thought they did an excellent job. And then when the decision was made, everybody's, well, I'm still staying in. You know, I'm still doing it. You do what you do.
Unbelievable.
And what do you think? People are speculating about Whitmer maybe in not this election, but in 2028. What do you? Is she a good candidate? Does she have a? I think people expect that's her next step. What's your?
I think by and large,
evaluation of that?
I think by and large she's been a good governor. You know, I've had my spats and still have them with respect to the juvenile detention facility and that sort of stuff. But overall governance, yeah, I think she's done a good job, and I think she's a good potential candidate. That's what she wants to do.
Okay, listen, I really appreciate you coming down here on this snowy Saturday morning. This is Black History. This is Black History Month. I want your take on who you look up to and who made a difference in you coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I had a family of about 4 uncles that was very, very close to, you know, my mother's brothers. From the time I was 2 or 3 years old, you know, they taught me to hunt, they taught me to fish, they taught me to think about education, to do those sorts of things. So they were always my heroes. I mean, one of them was, you know, Reverend Albert B. Clegg or Jeramogi, very prominent Detroiter for a long time. But my grandfather was. My grandfather came here in the beginning of the 1900s when he graduated from medical school and was involved, you know, first city physician in receiving hospital, started food co-ops for people in the community. I mean, those are the people. My grandfather died when I was about 8, but his sons all socially committed to Detroit, and those are the people that raised me. So, I mean, if anybody asked me who my heroes were, those were really my heroes. You know, I mean, I had other African Americans who did great things, and don't think I'm not, you know, excited about that. But, you know, the people who were closest to me, and I think closest to the city of Detroit and closest to were my uncles. So, without a doubt, those were my heroes.
Okay. Any other questions?
So let me ask you: are you thinking about running for mayor?
Oh yeah, I'm thinking.
Okay. And when do you think you will make your final decision? It's going on in your head. When do you think you'll make your final decision?
In the next couple of months.
Okay.
I'm sure. But I mean, again, who wouldn't be proud to be mayor?
Right.
But who wouldn't be proud to be county executive? Right. You know, I mean, there's a track record here and projects that we're building on that, quite frankly, in my mind, for me to leave and not have a clear idea as to who could likely follow is something I got to try to figure out too. I mean, one of the reasons we've done so well in 10 years, I mean, by we, I mean the region, is because the mayor's office and my office have generally worked together on projects, been on the same page with things. And so the region, I think, has gotten better. You know, if I was lucky enough to win a mayor's race and someone comes in the county that I don't think I can work effectively with, it wouldn't be okay. Then I don't know if there's a net gain. I mean, to me, the politics is not about me. I'm past the point now. Yeah, I watch what I wish for. You know, I'm at that age. I don't need to show off or try to do it. I just want the place I grew up to be substantially better when I leave. And if I don't think I can make that kind of difference in Detroit, I won't get out there and try. If I think I can make that difference in Detroit, then I'll give it some serious consideration.
Okay, well, thank you, Wayne County Exec Warren Evans. You know, I have to have you back when you make your announcement, one
Thanks
way or
so
the
much.
other, we want you on here. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Take a break.
Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, you know, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com to see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
Hey, we are back. Thanks for tuning in this morning at Michigan and Trumbull at McShane's. Whoops. All right, we're trying to get the lighting back here.
Okay.
Anyways, so I have somebody. I was saying one thing growing up in Detroit. The Motown sound, Berry Gordy, had done so much for the music industry and so much for Detroit, putting Detroit on the map with the Motown sound and all the amazing artists. I remember I went to see a documentary at the DIA where Berry Gordy was there. It was they were showing it, and it was for Aretha Franklin and in her younger years, and it was like being at a concert, and it was just a reminder how amazing she was. You know, sometimes we hear old music and it comes back and we go, oh my gosh, I forgot how amazing that is. And she was amazing.
But you know, Detroit, forget Motown for a minute, because Motown is Motown. But there was always a group of musicians and singers that was not with Motown that made Detroit. John Lee Hooker, Jackie Wilson, Wilson Pickett. You know, some of these folks, I'm like, Detroit, yeah, Detroit, you know. So we got a little bit of Motown, United Sounds. People came from all over the country, all over the world to record there. And it's still there, isn't it?
Yeah.
They was going to tear it down, wasn't it?
Right.
It's a museum now.
Okay.
I was in Jerusalem in December of 2022. I was walking by a shop and there was Motown music coming blaring from there. And I was like, you know, I mean, it's something we can all be proud of as Detroiters.
So when Mandela said when he got out of prison, that all they listened to was Marvin Gaye and all these folks,
right.
You know. So yeah, Motown, at the Detroit sound, always the Detroit sound.
So we want to thank all of you guys that watch the show continuously and the comments. We have Kenneth Reed who says the corporate money is going to be behind Dennis Archer Jr. So there's a rumor that Dennis Archer Jr. may be running for the mayor of the city of Detroit. You have Terry, I don't know, I can't read your last name. They asked a question, are these people going to run for political office until they're 907?
Yeah.
What?
90.
Oh, okay. See,
I understand.
what about endorsing the young people, pass the torch to new ideas?
Well, they got to take it. You know
That's
what?
true.
Nobody's going to give anybody any power until somebody demands it, and they take it. You know what? And I say, and I'm an advocate of that, because why would you want somebody? See, I got you, counselor. You defending grandpa, but then you say at the same time, get some young folks.
Defending age.
Listen,
I'm not defending
grandpa can fly a rocket ship or drive, but we need the young people.
But you know what? Speaking of young people,
I wouldn't ride with a 15-year-old.
They're not interested.
Right.
And a lot of people in that generation is not interested.
Wait till they get old, and then they're going to cry and say,
wait until they get older.
Old.
Wait until
I
they
mean,
get
what
older.
we see is in a lot of times the younger people are community activists who decide they want a bigger voice at the table and they get involved in politics. But we need to encourage that because look, this generation, whether whoever wins, Trump, Biden, whoever, they're done. They're
What
done.
about Cornel West?
Cornel West is not going to
What
win.
about Bobby Kennedy?
Oh my God!
No, we got. Let's bring my man on here. We got a Republican strategist,
Okay.
Jason Roe. Hey, how you doing, Jason?
Good morning. How you guys doing?
Hey,
We
good,
doing
good.
fine. You know, we just debating, talking about
Yeah, it
how,
sounds like I should have called in for
put
the
a
earlier
straight
segment.
jacket on your candidate.
Not my candidate. I got no
Not
candidate.
your candidate.
not your candidate.
I got no candidate.
Listen, before we get into the nitty gritty of the Republicans and Democrats, I have a question. Is James Craig dead politically?
Yeah, I don't see how he turns the corner on reestablishing himself as a credible candidate to raise the money necessary. I mean, you saw how he belly flopped on fundraising as a Senate candidate, even though he, had somewhat of a lead in a couple polls that came out about the race. And this is not all his fault. This is a guy who's a career law enforcement officer. This is a new game for him at, a later part of his life. And, as one former sheriff told me, there's a big difference between chiefs and sheriffs. Sheriffs got to get elected on the ballot and they know how to work a room. Chiefs have never had to do that. So they wait for the room to work them. And that's just not how retail candidates should be conducting themselves. And that's something that, you have to learn. I think also when he ran for governor, being new to this world, he didn't know who the grifters were and who the credible people were. And I think it took him a long time to figure out who his people were. And I still don't think he knows who they are.
Let me ask you this: is it to get win the primary in the major state races like Senate? Do you have to endorse Donald Trump, or can Peter Meyer? Does he have a shot at it, or how do you see that?
Well, I think someone like Peter Meyer could get through without endorsing Trump if you've got a number of other well-funded conservative candidates that can create a lane for him. But you're only going to get, 15 to 20% taking that posture. And so you need everybody else to subdivide the remaining 80%. And I think it's a difficult path for someone like Peter to not embrace Trump and get through this primary.
You know what? I want to pivot and ask you about what's going on with the leadership of the Republican Party here in Michigan.
I was hoping you could tell me.
Yes.
You have a chairman and an anti-chairperson.
What impact is that having on the party in Michigan with this turmoil going on with the head of the Republican Party here in Michigan?
Well, first and foremost, it's a distraction. I mean, you've got all of these, variables in the political winds that are going Republicans' way. And Michigan Republicans, unfortunately, can't take advantage of those opportunities because they're spending a lot of their time talking about the nonsense happening with the state party. I think the behavior of the leadership of the state party has been embarrassing. And I think that reflects on the candidates. I mean, normally a good state political party should never be heard from or heard about. That means they're doing the unsexy blocking and tackling of kind of grassroots political activism and organizing. And that's not what's happening. You've got, basically a bunch of factions fighting with each other. And this is not even the establishment versus the grassroots. This is the grassroots versus the grassroots. The establishment has been sitting back holding their coat while they go after each other. In terms of the practical impact, you don't have engagement from the national committees in the state at the level you normally would. The state GOP is the one place that the RNC, the National Republican Senatorial Committee, the National Republican Congressional Committee, and the Republican State Leadership Committee can all come together and coordinate and organize and move money around. Kristina Karamo can't be trusted to have money transferred into those accounts because she won't follow through on the intent of that money. So the party is basically a non-entity for the Republican candidates right now.
How did she get elected? in the first place? What's your theory on what was going on?
Well, if you remember, it was her versus Matthew DePerno, the Republican nominee for Attorney General, probably Donald Trump's two most outspoken proxies in the state. DePerno was endorsed by Trump, yet Karamo win, and she won pretty handily. And I think most people think that's because she refused to accept the 14-point ass kicking that she got in the Secretary of State's race in 2022, whereas Matthew DePerno acknowledged his double-digit loss. Kristina continued to perpetuate the lie that her election was stolen, even though she ran a pathetic campaign. She got outspent dramatically, and across the board, Republicans took it in the teeth. And I think that was the tipping point for the activists, is her refusal to embrace the outcome of the 2022 election as a proof point that she will never back down to the establishment and the uniparty.
Well, with all this turmoil that's going on, do you think that this is going to have an impact in terms of the ticket, from the top of the ticket on down? What kind of impact do you think it will have?
Well, I think the worst is behind. I think across the board, there's recognition now that Peter Hoekstra is the duly nominated and elected chairman of the party. He's been endorsed by Trump. He's been acknowledged by the Republican National Committee. The procedures that he went about at the state party level in order to become chairman were followed as according to the bylaws. So from a technical standpoint, there's no dispute. Peter Hoekstra is the chairman. Kristina put out an email yesterday saying that she remains the chair unless the courts intervene. And, should the courts intervene, we expect that they will acknowledge that Hoekstra is the chairman. I don't think that means Kristina goes away quietly. I think she'll establish herself as some type of shadow party. But she's been so ineffective with all the tools at her disposal that I can't imagine that she's going to have much impact with no tools at her disposal.
But don't that hurt Trump as he gets the nomination? Don't that hurt him in the long run?
It's a distraction, but I think a month from now, this is going to be put to bed. And I think those national committees that I listed will all be coming to the table. We've got an open Senate seat. We've got 3 competitive congressional races. We have control of the House. And from Trump's standpoint, there's been 4 polls in the last 2 months that have shown him up anywhere from 5 to 8 points. So I think he's going to play a pretty heavy hand once he gets through the primary here in shaping what the party does in Michigan. So I think a lot of the dysfunction will fix itself. And we are far behind. We don't have field staff. There's probably some candidate recruitment that could be taking place or should have been that hasn't with the dysfunction. But I think most of the high hurdles will be behind Republicans a month from now. But that doesn't mean that the Republican Party isn't behind where they should normally be.
But how about John James's race? When you talk about competitive races, do you see that as being once again a competitive race in his district?
I do. And frankly, I think had Andy Levin decided to run in that seat after the redistricting in the 2022 election, he'd probably be the congressman. Democrats rolled out the cadaver of yesterday's Democratic candidate. And even though John outspent him by 8 million to 1 million, James won by 0.5 percentage point. That's too narrow. I do think, though, when you look forward to 2024 and some of those political variables, the headwinds are not the same as they were. Last time we had, a pretty powerful Democratic governor going for re-election who outspent her opponent about 80 million to 8 million. The Secretary of State and AG's races were similarly huge expenditures compared to no expenditures. And then you had Prop 3, the abortion constitutional amendment on the ballot. And, Whitmer and the abortion amendment passed by double digits. And so every Republican was running with a headwind. Now, worst case scenario, Donald Trump loses by 2 points in Michigan. And so you don't have the same headwinds. You got a lot more tailwinds. And I think also when you look at 2022, Democrats had a lot to turn out their base, particularly young voters with Prop 3. and getting some voters who might normally vote Republican to vote the other way over some of the abortion politics and the weak candidacy of Tudor Dixon. That's a different scenario. Abortion's not on the ballot, and Biden is a deeply flawed candidate. And even if you don't like Trump, the binary choice, excluding the other minor candidates, is, a really bad leader versus a really bad leader. So pick your flavor.
What do you see on all the criminal cases impacting Trump? How's that going to show up in the polls or in the voting?
So far, I haven't seen anything that indicates it's going to have a huge impact. I think Democrats overplayed their hand early on. I think Alvin Bragg's indictment, the Manhattan district attorney, which was the first of the 4 indictments, was the weakest. It was politically motivated to help him politically. It really didn't pass legal muster, and even Democrats were, critical, if not skeptical, about the merits of the Bragg indictment. And what that ended up doing, being the flimsiest, is undermining the credibility of the subsequent 3 indictments, which actually had some meat to them, and turned Donald Trump into a martyr. And so I think for a lot of folks that are inclined towards Trump, they don't see this as proof that Trump committed crimes. They see it as evidence that the establishment finally found a way to get him. So it's not disqualifying from their standpoint. To them, it's just affirming of what he's always been saying, which is they're out to get me. They're out to get me.
Okay. Hey, Jason, thank you very much.
Thanks.
We're gonna see you as November comes, and the grandpa is gonna kick the one flew over the cuckoo nest butt in an election. But anyway,
well, that was relatively painless this morning. I was expecting a little more of a colonoscopy. So
we know you really want, when you get off the air, you're gonna say, "Go away, Trump, go away." But anyway, thank you, Jason Roe.
Thanks, guys.
Strategist.
Have a good
Thanks
weekend.
So much.
Let's take a break, and we'll be back.
Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com to see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
All right, we are back.
Yeah, we're back. While we're on the break, I was just saying that we really appreciate those people that are watching the show, and we really appreciate you making the comments. These are some really good comments, and we need to use some of these comments as conversational pieces, because these are the concerns of the people. For instance, we had someone say that, listen, we had a young mayor. I'm paraphrasing. We had a young mayor. We don't need nobody young in office. We need someone that is seasoned, that is older, that has experience.
Okay.
And I think that was one of the points that I was trying to make, in that I don't have any issues with, if you're older, if you're still cognizant and you can do the job. I don't personally have a problem with that. I do have a problem with stereotyping. There was another comment on there, and I did get a chance to ask Jason this, but when we're talking about the chairperson of the Michigan Republican Party, do you guys think that this is going to have an impact? Because one of the reasons that they put her in office is they said that she'd be able to bring in the African American vote. And we talked earlier about how wait a minute. We talked about earlier how basically the Democrats basically take the African American vote for granted. But will it have an impact on women that's in the Republican Party? Do you think that they're picking on? Because I mean, I could look at it as they're picking on this lady. They're just picking on this homeless
But
lady.
she
That
insane.
bullying, you don't know
She's
that. And you know
insane.
what? People
She's
kill me.
insane.
Listen, people
She's
kill me
insane.
throwing around these terms.
She's insane.
Crazy, insane.
She's insane. She wanted to drive off a cliff
Just
and
because
kill her.
they
Kill
don't
her family.
operate the way that you think
They're
that
No,
they
I don't
operate
want her.
does
That's
not
right.
mean that the person is crazy.
She's
I think we need to
insane.
stop throwing around
She's
these
insane.
terms very loosely.
Insane.
You're responsible
But
for what comes
I-
out your mouth.
I want to say something.
Yeah.
When you talk about, I mean, just because somebody's black, people aren't just, I mean, they aren't going to vote for somebody just because they're black. It's like, I'm not
Yes,
going to
they
vote.
will.
I'm not going to vote for
Just like
somebody.
you Jewish.
Some
Yeah.
people,
No, I'm going to
some
say
people vote
that.
just because
I'm
of
going to
the
say, I'm going
What
to
you
say
talking
that
about?
there are people who are Jewish who are not going to vote for candidates just because they're Jewish.
But there are more.
There are some who will. But I think all, I mean, when you're
Arab Americans, if you're Arab
Palestinian
American,
not going to be
I'm going
is
to
not going
vote
to be
for you.
prime minister of Israel, is it?
People do
I
that.
don't think so.
Well, okay,
Let me
then.
tell you, to
All
your
right.
point, your point. When
Okay.
Barack Obama ran for president, I know people that were on the other side of the aisle and they voted for him because they were black
Well,
men and he was a black man. I'm sorry, you said color.
No,
You
no.
said color.
But
You said
no,
color.
we were talking
You
about.
said
All
color.
right, let me say something. When we're talking about Barack Obama, we're talking about a dynamo guy who was an
I know this-
amazing speaker,
I'm not
who
saying
was
that, but people
dynamic.
voted for him because of his color. I've had people tell me
And-
that.
And I know, but I'm telling you, I'm saying because they could, because he was a decent candidate. She is not a person who's going to rally the black community. She got killed in her race for Secretary of State. She's
I
just
don't
not.
about that. I'm just asking the question.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying. I'm just saying.
That's
It's
all
not an
right.
automatic.
And we can ask that question because that it is. Listen, when I first voted,
Race matters.
when I first voted, I was a freshman at the University of Michigan. When I first voted, had
How long
Milligan,
ago was that? 1960? 1960?
1935.
You talk about age now,
1930.
right?
1935. I voted for William Milligan, and I voted for Attorney General Myron Walls. See, I knew Myron Walls was a black man. He was Republican, running against Frank Kelly. He didn't have a shot. Frank Kelly was entrenched.
But you
Right.
voted for him
But I
because-
voted for him because he was a brother. And after he got his butt kicked, Milligan appointed him to the
But you
Board of
knew him.
Appeals.
You knew him.
No, I knew who he was.
And he
I
was a
didn't know-
decent guy.
Oh, he was a brother. I said,
But
I
he
had
was
him
but
on
he
there.
was a
To
decent
my
guy.
point, exactly.
That's what I
And
tell
for
them.
people to,
Right.
for him to sit here, and I'm saying
Right.
him, Allan, to sit here and think and say that people don't. Yes, they do. They vote based on
They do.
some of them based on the sex of the person, the race of the person. It may be one issue.
Or
They
the
may
name of the
disagree.
person.
Yes, they may disagree on everything but one issue and say, "Hey, I'm voting for that person because they."
How many
agree on this
Hathaways
one
are
issue."
judges? And
I have no
It's-
idea.
it's- but
At
people-
one point in
but
time, it
people,
was
they-
5 million of
there
them.
was 5 names,
A
no
name.
question.
Okay,
Young
based
bloods,
on name.
all the
By
names.
the way, please
Yes.
remember Vanessa Moss in the upcoming months.
But
Vanessa Moss.
but
Okay, go ahead.
yeah.
We're gonna have to
Okay.
invoice you now for that
Vince,
Vote
commercial.
for
Wait a
me
minute.
because my name is Moss. Vote for me because I'm black. Vote for me because I'm a woman. All three. Oh, wait a minute.
I was about to
Because
say
I'm the
something.
bomb.com.
Okay. But anyway,
And smoking hot.
okay, and smoking something. But anyway,
Now,
All right, we have a
Yeah.
bunch of comments here.
go ahead.
Let's see here. We've got Terry McCrimmon who says we voted for President Obama because he was young and dynamic.
Okay.
Then we have Karen Winston.
You did, Terry.
And then we have Dweller Boyce who says, I'm not
Hey,
advocating a young person, but I don't want someone bearing on the state of senility.
Okay.
All right. Let's see here. We got the choice, Terry McCrimmon. The choice was easy, President Obama or John McCain and Sarah Palin. Kenneth Reed, I knew Myron Walls and I know Mike Walls, his son too. Karen Winston, you go Vanessa.
Yes, Karen.
And then we also have Eric Brown. People of color also voted for him simply for historical purposes, talking about Obama.
No question.
Because he's black.
But he was a great candidate,
I
and he
did
was
not
also
say that he wasn't. I don't disagree with you.
He was
What
all
I'm
right.
saying is
he was a good candidate.
people,
He
there were
was all
some
right. He didn't
people
do
that
what he could have
I
done.
know
Right, I
they
agree.
voted on him based
He
on that.
couldn't do what
There
he
were some
could have
people
done.
who supported what's her name? What's Bill Clinton's wife's name?
Hillary.
Hillary Clinton. Some women voted for her because she was a woman.
It wasn't enough.
They
It
support-
wasn't enough.
it-
It wasn't
that's
enough.
not the
It
point.
wasn't enough. That
That's
is
not
the
the
point.
point. The point
It
is
wasn't the point.
they voted for her because she is a woman.
She was
I
qualified.
remember them talk about breaking the glass
woke.
ceiling
You
and all of
woke.
that stuff.
But I'm concerned about you
don't know
running.
what woke means.
I'm
Yeah,
concerned
but
about you
you
running,
won't.
and you did not remember Hillary's first name.
Oh, well, you know,
Okay, but anyway.
I know that's okay.
Anyway, as we come to an end, we started out with Warren Evans, so we're gonna end this. What is your outrage of the week?
Oh, my outrage of the week is was what happened in Kansas City. I think it's a crying shame. People were celebrating there was a parade, and actually I was working out and I'm watching the television as I'm working out. I was like, what the heck is going on? Had no idea that you had this mass shooting going on in Kansas City. I think that's my outrage of the week. And what is more telling is there's two juveniles, a 17-year-old and someone younger than that. With what happened with the Crumley case, I wonder if we're on a slippery slope. I'm just wondering because where did they get the guns from? Who are they going to hold responsible? You're talking about a mass shooting, and then here we go. We're going to have this conversation again. They need to make more restrictions on guns. Listen, I don't believe that because guess what? I could get a gun. I'm sure I could get a license, and one day I may decide that you know what.
As I pulled my gun out.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm just saying that to me is not a real test. But anyway, that was my outrage.
Okay. Allan,
My outrage. The Republicans have been talking about impeaching Joe Biden and keep referencing repeatedly an FBI informant saying the FBI informant knows that Joe Biden was paid $5 million. Now the FBI informant's been indicted for lying about all that. And the Republicans are still like, well, maybe. And well, I mean, do some work in Congress. There's so much shit that needs to be done. And they're just into politics. We don't want, we expect politicians to run. We can't knock that out of their DNA, but we want you to go to Congress and do something about the border or about all this kind of stuff.
Have you talked to Shrink?
I have not.
well,
He
anyway.
keep calling my house. I mean, he keep calling my cell phone. We keep getting stuff. I mean, you talk about people going to Congress and working.
Okay, fine. As we ended, my outrage is Caitlin Buss from the Detroit News. She wrote an article saying that we shouldn't cancel the state rep who made all these crazy but yet when I wrote an op-ed piece and gave it to you about abortion that you didn't like, did it ever appear on the pages of the Detroit News? Hell no, because y'all cancel folks too. You know, sometimes you let people, yes. So it's all canceled. You know, if you want freedom of speech, it got to work both ways. You know, you got to it's like
why don't you do you read your article on Detroit in black and white,
right,
or put it on our page so that people can read? Because obviously you thought it was important enough that you wrote it and you put it in the you submitted it to be put in the newspaper.
But
there's other ways that you could get your message out.
I know that.
You don't have to
why are you trying to expose? Why are you trying to expose the curtain about the Wizard of Oz? Anyway, you pull the curtain back. But anyway,
Eric Brown has a comment. Your argument, Vanessa, was that black people supported Kristina because she was black. That was not close.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
We'll talk about it in another time. Thank you, Detroit Black and White. Vanessa Moss, running for 35th District Court. You already said it.
I said I'm running for office.
Okay, go ahead. Thanks, Allan Lengel.
All right, thank
Jim.
you. Thanks.
Teresa. Thank you. Thanks, Warren Evans.
Yep.
Jason Roe. Thanks to all the people that commented today. We'll be back next week. Detroit in black and white. Thanks, Bob Roberts from McShane.
Yes.
Here, it's nice and hot outside. I'm going to the beach.
It's snowing, man.
Okay.
All
See
right.
you next
See you
week.
next Saturday.